Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel, English Classes by Nupur Roy. Today I take up a poem of Class 11 CBSE. The name of the poem is Childhood by Markus Natten. Childhood is written by Markus Natten. He was born in 1917 in Oslo, Norway. Markus Natten had his dedication to the art of poetry with profound exploration of the themes of childhood, love, loss, and human condition. In this poem particularly, what do we find is that the poet thinks over his lost childhood. And the theme of the childhood poem is the nostalgic longing for the innocence of the joy of childhood. So we find that the poet is not sure when he became an adult. He wonders about the moment where he lost the innocence and realized that the world is not what it seemed to be when he was a child. He recalls when his thoughts changed and realized the hypocrisy of the people around him. He finally settled down to the idea that his childhood went to some forgotten place and is hidden in the face of an innocent infant. Let's read the poem Childhood with its explanation. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be? Was that the day? So here in the stanza 1, the poem Childhood by Markus Natten, we see that it begins with a question. The stanza begins with a question. Here the poet wishes to know when he lost his childhood. He tries to find out the answer of his own question. He feels it was perhaps that day when he discovered that heaven and hell did not exist in geography book, nor could provide him any information about the existence of such places as heaven and hell. This was the time when the author and poet could make a distinction between reality and fantasy. That is, the time when he realizes that what was the real thing in the world and what was fantasy, that is imagination. The poet comes to the realization that they are all imaginary places and they have no existence in this world. And the poet feels that he had probably lost his childhood when he had acquired this rational thinking towards his surroundings. Second stanza, we see how the poet expresses, when did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but did not act so lovingly. Was that the day? So in the second stanza, we find that the poet thinks out that the adults around him did not practice what they usually preached. So When he was a child, the parents loved him more, pampered him more, and as he becomes adult, everything changes into very practical things. So he realizes that whatever was practiced, that was not actually what they preached. They taught others to be loving and caring, but their behavior, the parents' behavior, becomes different. So was this the time when his childhood had gone? This is when the child started reasoning between good and bad. The poet realizes that probably the getting reasonable about the things of the world, in the world, might have been the major step towards losing his childhood. The third stanza, the poet expresses, "When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine, to use whichever way I choose, producing thoughts that were not those of other people, but my own and mine alone? Was that the day?" So here, as we can understand, is the poet, while growing up, realizes that his mind is powerful and it takes its own decisions. He understands everything around him. His own opinions and thoughts have earned him an individuality in himself. He understands his thoughts were his own and no one can affect them. One can say that the poet became aware that he can produce his thoughts, own thoughts, and that he had the free will. This was the time when the poet becomes aware of his own individuality and personality. This is when he thinks that his individuality and experiences have taken away the innocence of his childhood from him. The last stanza, as the poet expresses, "Where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that's hidden in an infant face. That's all I know." So in this last stanza of the poem, Childhood, the poet changes his question from when to where. That is, when did his childhood go? Now to where did his childhood go? Markus Natten here says that his childhood has gone hiding into some forgotten place. It can be found in an infant's face. That's so that childhood can now be seen in another infant's face. Again, that infant has got the cherished childhood stage of his life. The last lines can be understood as that the childhood is a lost memory, and we also recall the fantasies and the moments associated with our childhood, but at the same time, the innocence and the childhood are also lost. Among the poetic devices in this poem, the most important here is about the refrain. The repetition of the lines, especially at the end or the beginning of the poem, is called the refrain. So refrains carries the central theme of message of the poem. Here the line, the very first line you can see, which is repeated in the other stanzas, "When did my childhood go? And was that the day?" are examples of refrain. The first refrain, that is, "When did my childhood go?" is the central theme of the poem as to when has the poet lost his childhood, while the second refrain ends with an exclamation which brings out the poet's realization. That is, the second refrain is, "Was that the day?" and it is ending with that exclamation. So this is all about the beautiful poem, Childhood. Hope you have understood the poem well. If you have any doubts in any part of the poem, please write in the comments. I would further explain it. And please like if you are really liking the videos, and share with your friends and subscribe. See you soon in my next video.